Hello everyone, today I will tell you about the film Extraction. Enjoy watching. Mumbai, India. Ovi Mahajan went for a drive around the city with his classmates after school. At home, he was scolded for it by Sajo, the head of the security service. The boy must always go straight home. That evening, as soon as Sajo left, the boy went to a club to relax with his classmates again. Ovi and a friend went out to smoke. At that moment, the police pulled up. The mustachioed cop put a bag over Ovi's head and shoved him into the car. The father of the kidnapped boy is serving time in prison. Ovi Sr. instructed Sajo to find his son at all costs. If necessary, the security guard will hire an entire army. If Ovi does not return home, then Sajo's son will not live to see Christmas. Now his wife is asking Sajo to do everything possible. The problem is that Mahajan's money is frozen, so he has no money to pay the mercenaries. We are transported to Australia. Former Special Forces soldier Tyler Rake found a helicopter and an old friend Nika Khan near his house. She offered the mercenary a job to save the son of an Indian drug lord who was captured by his competitor. Rake has only 16 hours. The big guy agreed. No one else would have taken on such a dangerous job anyway. The kid was kidnapped by Amir Sif. Ovi is being held in Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh. He is being guarded by 20 thugs. The operation was planned. Rake supposedly has to hand over the ransom. He found himself in the middle of a dirty, noisy city and began to wait for further instructions. Suddenly, the guy was grabbed and shoved into a van. Rake was taken to some apartment. He agreed to hand over the money only when he saw the kid. Ovi is alive and is being held in the next room. Now the American must call those who will bring the money here. But instead, the bandits were shot one by one with a sniper rifle. Rake freed himself and, armed with a machine gun, burst into the main room. The bandits who were outside failed to come to the rescue. The sniper had already started working on them. Meanwhile, the Special Forces soldiers switched to hand-to-hand combat. He impaled the last two bandits on a rake. However, there was someone else in the room. A juvenile criminal tried to shoot a mercenary with an old rifle, but he failed. Rake freed the hostage. Then he ordered him to hide his face and climb into the trunk. At this time, Osif was interrogating the boys on the roof to find out who stole his money. In the end, Farhad, the oldest and smartest guy, had to answer. He needed to cut off 2 of his fingers. But he was interrupted by a message that Ovi had escaped. Osif is the master of Dhaka. He ordered the colonel to close all the bridges, airports, and train stations. Osif liked Farhad, and the authority ordered him to give him a gun. Rake got to a safe place, fed the boy, and put a bulletproof vest on him. Then he filmed Ovi. And, having made a video report, he continued the operation. After all, they still have 2 kilometers to go through the forest. The team of mercenaries provided the customer with evidence that the boy was alive. The payment should be credited to their account within a few minutes. A boat is waiting for the Special Forces soldier on the river. Their sniper is also lying in ambush there. For some reason, the alarm went off. 2 fighters went down to check what happened and were killed. The money never arrived in the account. Finally, Nika realized that they had been screwed. The sniper was going to check on the boat, but he was also killed. The killer is about 100 meters away from Rake. The birds that took off told him where the attack was coming from. But instead of accepting the fight, the mercenary ordered Ovi to run away from here. At the same time, the police found the boat. Also, a helicopter is tracking the fugitives from above. The killer almost reached Ovi and took off his mask. It was Saju, and he shouted at the boy to run to him. But Rake did not let the boy go and ordered him to move on. They ran to the car, but they could not go far because the cops blocked their way. They had to back up. Rake convinces the guy that even the guard cannot be trusted. Perhaps he is in cahoots with the kidnappers, and only he can be trusted. Saju stole one of the police cars and shot all the cops. Only he remained in pursuit of Rake, but the way ahead was blocked, so they had to leave the car and hide in the nearest building. Dhaka's special forces began to search apartment after apartment. In order not to raise a ruckus, Rake stabbed one of the cops, but the next time they could not do without a firearm. Ovi had to flee alone. Fortunately, Rake was already waiting for him at the other exit. To deal with the next pack of special forces, he completely emptied the magazine of his Glock. Having knocked down several doors and frightened the population, the American again encountered Saju. Together with the Indian, they fell on the asphalt and after a while, having come to their senses, continued the fight, this time with knives. Rake emerged victorious from this fight, but he was hit by a passing car. The wounded Saji gathered his strength and headed towards the police officers who had grabbed the boy. He shot them all and led Ovi after him. This time it was Rake who hit him with a truck. Just then, reinforcements arrived. They couldn't hide while they were being watched from a helicopter, so the fugitives jumped out of the truck as it passed under a bridge. The car flipped over and exploded, which was immediately reported to Osif. However, the boy's body was not found. But Osif learned the name of his pain in the ass and ordered the whole city to search for the American. Nika found out that they were not going to be paid from the very beginning. Mahajan waited for them to do all the dirty work, and then the boy was to be taken away by the former Special Forces soldier Saju. Nika will send a helicopter for Rake, but the boy will have to be left behind. Saju called his wife and warned that if he does not come home in 12 hours, she and the child will have to disappear. The man asked to give the phone to his son so that he could talk to him, possibly for the last time. A few hours later, Nika called again and told Rake where the helicopter would be waiting for them. The mercenary tried to steal the car, but two armed bandits had already found them and opened fire on them. One of the attackers was a very young boy. A gang of teenagers led by Farhad appeared ahead. Rake threw 2 smoke grenades and scattered the boys to the sides. The little guy pointed a sawed-off shotgun at him, but shot off Farhad's fingers. Having gotten rid of them, Rake jumped into the sewer to avoid the eyes of the police patrolling the city. The American called Nika and asked her to call for help a certain Gaspar, whose life he had previously saved. There was no other way for them to get out of here. Rake won't leave the boy here alone. Gaspar picked up his friend and brought him home. He said that the city was cordoned off. You can only leave it via one of the bridges, but they are all under surveillance. Because of this, they will have to lie low for a couple of days. Gaspar said that he would go to his wife and left Rake to rest. Farhad still lost his fingers, though thanks to the efforts of the American. For this, he swore to kill the damned Yankee. Rake told Ova that he had a son, but a few years ago he died of lymphoma. He was only 6 years old. The mercenary was in Afghanistan at that time. He left so as not to see his son die. Gaspar returned home. He began to convince his friend that the boy was still a corpse. Even if he was pulled out of here, Osip would still get to him. Gaspar also found out that they were offering $10 million for Ovi, so why not make some money? Rake realized that it was in vain that he turned to his old friend. Gaspar admitted that he had already made an agreement with Osip. He would deal with the boy himself. Rake wouldn't even have to do anything. But the American would stop Gaspar. A fight broke out between the mercenaries, and Gaspar won. He smashed a wooden table with his friend and was about to pierce it with a piece, but stopped when he saw Ovi. The kid pointed a gun at him. Gaspar didn't believe that Ovi would pull the trigger, but when he ran, he caught several bullets at once. This time, the boy saved Rake. Rake realized that if a friend turned out to be an enemy, then an enemy can be made your friend, and called Saj. At dawn, Rake brought Ove to the Indian and gave him a bag of weapons as a bonus. Rake told him where the helicopter would be waiting, but they were separated from the helicopter by 2 outposts. The American would try to draw all the fire onto himself. Saj stopped at the checkpoint. Rake nodded to him and fired at the police car with a grenade launcher. After firing another shell, Rake began to spray the police and soldiers with a rifle. Saju took advantage of the chaos and broke through the first outpost. Before storming the building, the special forces fired a grenade launcher at the window, but Rake managed to jump back and was ready to greet the guests. Saju was unable to get far. The road was blocked, so they will have to go on foot. Nika is also not sitting back and is driving with his team to the destination. The people are unhappy that they are not allowed to calmly cross the bridge. Saju took advantage of the confusion and passed the outpost. But one soldier noticed the suspicious couple and ordered them to stop. Ovi had to take off his cap, and Saju immediately shot the soldiers surrounding them. They will have to break through with a fight. Saju took out the sniper in the tower and cleared the way with a couple of grenades. Osif ordered 2 more detachments to be sent to the bridge. A little further away, Rake is diligently trying to break out of the encirclement. Reinforcements are flying to the bridge by helicopter. Saj will have to divert their attention to himself so that the boy can sit out in a safe place. The squad riddled all the cars that were in the traffic jam with machine guns and assault rifles, but Saj was not even wounded. A team of mercenaries drove up and also started shooting at the soldiers. The special forces landed next to Saj. The Indian asked Rake for help, but he himself is being fired upon by a machine gunner from an armored car. Nika took on the task of neutralizing the main threat, the helicopter. She shot off the tail of the helicopter with a grenade launcher, and the machine fell not far from Ovi. Rake is slowly moving towards the bridge. He went around the armored car, killed the machine gunner, and blew up the car from the inside with grenades. While the main part of the mercenaries cleared the bridge, Yaz flies to it in a helicopter. The number of people killed by Rake was already approaching 100 when the American finally reached the bridge. By that time, Saji already looked like Rashedo, but he still fought back. The Indian stabbed 2 soldiers and took the captured machine gun for himself. But then the colonel took him out with a sniper rifle. After Borodata, he killed the helicopter pilot and another mercenary. Nika took a position to figure out the sniper. Rake continues to kill 3 to 4 people at a time. He was seriously wounded by the colonel, but he himself was killed by Nika. Barely alive, Rake ordered Ova to run to the helicopter and the boy listened to him. The American got to his feet and with the last of his strength continued to cover him. Another 5 people minus. Rake turned around. And at that moment, Farhad shot him in the neck with a machine gun. Nika chased the kid away, and Rake, remembering his son's face, fell off the bridge into the waters of Buragang. The others flew away in a helicopter. At the cost of 200 human lives, the drug lord's son was finally saved. This made Osif very sad. Soon Nika got to him and eliminated the criminal near the urinal. Ovi continued to go to school, and 8 months later he saw the surviving Rake by the pool.